I don't care who you blame for what happened in this show. You are wrong. Because Arcane is a gear train. At the center of this system is a giant cogwheel that spins round and round, its teeth sinking into and moving every single aspect of its story, from its world to its inhabitants. Surrounding it on all sides are smaller gears of all shapes and sizes, turning to its tune clockwise and counterclockwise. These smaller, meshed cogs have names such as Violet, Powder, Vanda, or Silka, and through their transmission, they influence the outer gears that are the machines and inventions, the fauna and recreation, as much as they do each other. This way, Jace is meshed with a hextech core, just as much as Victor is, and he to him, while both are connected to every other character in the world through its centerpiece. This mother wheel is not a who but a what, and it's not a thing but an idea. The price of ambition. I know, dramatic, right? This concept is the recurring theme of this show, and one that touches every aspect of it. When it moves clockwise with ambition, it produces an effect on its characters, and through them on their world. And when it moves counterclockwise without ambition, it produces another, the results being sometimes great, sometimes catastrophic, and oftentimes both. At the same time, this cog is turned by the very inhabitants it influences. It is powered and oiled by the very characters it moves, those who in the pursuit of great fail to do good, and those who in the pursuit of good were willing to sacrifice great. So, as we continue on my ongoing quest to get a real job through the making of pretentious YouTube videos, let's explore just what I mean when I say that ambition, and more importantly the price of it, is the only one at fault for the event of Arcane, the downfall of our characters, and, if you're anything like me, maybe even your own. I'll give the full spoiler warning now, because Arcane doesn't waste any time, and neither will I. This is not Powder's fault. It is not Vi's, it is not Jace's. If anything, it's Heimerdinger's, or rather, just as much his as anyone else's. If you disagree, you're wrong. Just as wrong as I am when I pretend that a transmission with a giant center cogwheel which is simultaneously influenced by the turning of all those around it would ever get anything done.
So I guess we're all disappointed.
So, let me explain why. Why you're wrong, that is. Not gear basics, because I really don't know anything about them. And because this show is so good at symmetry, among other tools it uses to stick everything together with its theme.
Am I interrupting you?
We'll start at the beginning. Arcane's opening tells us everything we need to know about the story moving forward. We're lured in by a common undercity tune where a poor bottom-sider asks a penny from a member of the upper class top side. A song that is sung by a girl as she crosses a bridge turned battlefield. The lyrics themselves introduce the theme of class as the girl and her sister cross what we will later discover to be the physical manifestation of this divide between Piltover and the future nation of Sorn, a divide that is as economical and legal as it is cultural and emotional. At the same time, this scene serves to establish the background of our two main protagonists, Violet and Powder, as they are at once orphaned and adopted as the consequence of the same revolutionary war. Above all this, the price of ambition, the theme, already looms. Vanda, witnessing the cost his revolution has imposed on both himself and those he is fighting for, drops his iron gauntlets to crack on the slabs of the bridge floor. In his eyes, we see reflected the same choice that every character in the show will either have to make or whose consequences they will have to face. To pay or not to pay the price of their ambitions. Vanda was faced here with this realization and the question of what it will take to see his dreams come true. In that moment, he saw his rebellion unfold and the lives that it would cost, and decided that ambition was the worthy sacrifice, not the girls. This is that mother of cogwheels I was talking about. Here we can see the system that could never work at work. The wheel of ambition turns clockwise towards its realization, but Vanda's confrontation with Vi and the heartbreak in her eyes upon discovering the death of her parents sticks a stone in between the rotating teeth of the gears, until Vanda's own will begins pushing it the other way, refusing to pay the price. This is why I say that no one is at fault for what happened, for the inevitable tragedy that is Jinx, because everyone is a part of the system and everyone has a part to play in the turning of its wheels. If every other character had done as Vanda did, then none of this would have happened. And it is this struggle between what you most want in the world and what you have to give up to see it done that moves the entire story and me with it. Arcane proposes that there are two types of connections to these choices, those personal to the one making them, and then the effects of those choices on others. Examples of these could be Silco for the former and Jinx for the latter, but no more so than anyone else. After the first of two time skips, we follow an older Violet and Powder alongside what I presume to be two other war orphans, Milo and Clagger, as the four of them work together to pull off Violet's ambitious heist. You can say that this is where the story really starts turning. Isn't it funny how it begins with an explosion in Piltover caused by the Undercity, when it will end with the exact same? It is also common for writers to recognize that a scene has begun to drag and introduce an explosion, be it literal or figurative, to re-engage the audience.
Quick, before we lose those minuscule attention spans.
This is not one such explosion. This is yet another introduction of theme. Vi wants to stick it to the man and get a better life for the citizens of the Undercity, a cause which she is ready to fight for just as much as Vander once was. For this reason, she ignores his warnings and gives origin to the catastrophe. Her ambition drives her, the cog turning clockwise, and this torque affects the other gears around and across from her. The destruction caused by the break-in lands a young scientist to court for illegal experimentations. It reinforces a young girl's fear of being unlovable. The news spread to the Undercity, where Silco learns of a new opportunity to strike at Vander for control of their people, and this accident is interpreted by Piltover's counselors as a terrorist attack that ends up breaking the fragile truce between the city's two faces. Although not as much as those around her, this will also affect Violet herself. Its main consequence will be the conflict her rule breaking will create with her father. And so here Vander steps in, like many characters in the relationship slot of the Hollywood formula, to explain and discuss the theme. There is a cost to the pursuit of one's goals, a price that might involve more than oneself. Are you willing to pay it?
I know you want to hurt the Topsiders for what they've done to us. But who are you willing to lose? Milo? Clagger? Powder?
This same question that Vander once asked himself, now Violet answers, and her answer is no. She, like her father, dreams of a better life for the Undercity. This is what she most wants, and this want will oppose a need to keep her sister safe. Violet, like any hero would, chooses, at least for now, to sacrifice this want, to self-sacrifice. She will give herself up for the Undercity to stop a war, for Vander, Milo, Clagger, and most of all, for Powder. But as we said, the twisting and turning of one character on the cogwheel of ambition is not one that goes unnoticed by others. And this one will not go unnoticed by Vander. He steps in to save Vi in the same way that she had stepped up to save Powder. He will give himself up for Topside to have its scapegoat. But as much as her ambitions were noticed by those two factions, they were also perceived by a third. Silco will set his plan to take control of the Undercity into motion, effectively wresting control from Vander and breaking his truce with Grayson by making his own deal with Marcus. As much as we appreciated the symmetry in beginning and end, we can also appreciate the parallels between the characters. In this case, the deal between Vander and Grayson mirrored by that between Silco and Marcus. While the consequences of Violet's ambitions unfold bottom side, the same is happening top side. Jace, whose dream is to harness magic through science, is going against the Academy and City's wishes and pursuing his studies anyway, now joined in a desperate breaking by Victor, assistant to their greatest mentor and detractor, Professor Heimerdinger. Did you notice? These two brothers and our two sisters both break into and steal for the sake of their ambitions, and something blows up because of it. That's another parallel. These ambitions we will later see more repercussions for, but matter now because of this. The same dream that will later bring wondrous improvement to the lives of the citizens of Piltover is the one that will cause, in part, all of its suffering. Yes, even Hextech and Shimmer are mirrors of each other, or, as DJ Khaled likes to say,
Another one.
Jace is pushing on the wheel of ambition, Vi's, Silco's, and the pulling of Heimerdinger when he seeks to stop these experimentations, alongside that of Vander when he protects his children, all play their part and have an effect on both the individuals acting and the rest of the inhabitants of the city. Now, since we're talking about symmetry and parallelism as tools to develop theme, let's ignore the fact that I don't have time to speak about color coding, lighting, character want versus character need, symbolism, or half the other characters' struggles with ambition, so we can talk about Silco. Silco is a mirror of Vanda, both revolutionaries who fought for the same righteous cause. The only difference between them is the realization that we saw Vanda go through in the beginning and that Silco has not yet had. Vanda was faced with the price he must pay for a free Undercity, while Silco only got to see his brother betray him. He is ignorant to this realization, and as a consequence of this lack of confrontation, of this absence of the question, Silco is clueless as to what his ambitions will cost, and believes himself willing to do anything to see them realized. It is not until the very end of this show that this prize will make itself clear to him, force his decision, and give us this incredible scene with two old friends sharing one last drop together. However, there's a good reason for Silco's lack of foresight beyond good plotting and pacing. In our lives, these moments of choice are not usually big instances of realization that come to slap us in the face. Except maybe when you're 18 and have to choose what to do with your life after high school. That one did sting a little. Usually though, they arrive gradually, with time and self-reflection, one that can sometimes be motivated by the very effects of a choice we had already made and did not even know about. Because life is not clear-cut. What would be the fun in that? And like life, neither are these characters definite. Except for Heimerdinger, he doesn't really like magic and that's about it for him. The rest, however, are all more complex, and with this complexity come more layers, like an ogre, and difficulty to their choices. Some will not have a clear moment of climax where their options are presented and, like us, they will not know immediately how this decision affects them, how it affects others, or how sometimes they can be affected by those that were not theirs to make. Violet will go save Vanda like he saved her. Joining Vi will be Milo and Clagger, but not Powder. Her little sister will stay behind because it's too dangerous, because Vi cannot afford to lose her, and because she's not ready. Powder, who has learned that through strength come admiration and love, has just received the biggest blow anyone could have landed on her. This is not just Vi telling her that she is not strong enough, but that she is not worthy of being loved.
I can help.
You're not ready.
At least, that's how Powder sees it. So it's not surprising that when presented with the opportunity of being strong, of being ready, of saving Vanda, she would not think twice about
I
it.
can help them.
Because this is Powder's ambition, as simple and mundane as it may seem, to be worthy of being loved. The difference with her sister is that for Powder, this moment of realization, this question that would enable her choice, comes only after she has made her decision, only after it's already too late. Because she does not know what consequences choosing her ambitions will have on her family, let alone the entire rest of Piltover. Silco uses Vanda as bait for those most loyal to him to mount their rescue so he can eliminate them now, before his reign commences and before he forces Vanda to fight for a cause he is only willing to die for, the same one that once made them brothers. This plan fails after Vi's skill, Milo's ingenuity and Clagger's strength managed to break him out, but Powder, who has no knowledge of this, also gets involved. In so doing, 2 out of 5 members of her family are killed, and the pride in her voice, the innocent ignorance of her tone as she claims that her bombs finally worked, has her sister running away in disgust of what has happened and what Violet herself has done. Powder, who thought she had finally become strong enough to be loved, now has her entire world flipped upside down and seeks refuge in the closest thing she can find. Silco, the man responsible for the destruction of her family. One of many who could be blamed. But wait, wasn't Heimerdinger responsible for this? Yes and no. Responsibility is tricky, and looking for fault is stupid. But as far as influence goes, yes, Heimerdinger did influence this explosion, and is part of the reason it happened. This portion of the motivation, if you will, is his own pushing and pulling on the cogwheel of ambition. Because of his fears, the study of magic was prohibited, and therefore Jace had to experiment secretly outside the safety of a lab within Academy grounds. Jace, because of his own dreams, acquired illegal equipment from the Undercity, giving a chance for the girls to grab his stones. Apologies for the innuendo. The council also played their part for their subjugation of the Undercity, Marcus for the growing tensions, Savika for her betrayal, Vi because her dreams pushed her to raid Piltover and keep their hold a secret from Vanda, Milo because he bullied Powder, Clagger because he was impassive towards it, Vanda for his past, Silco for the same, and Powder for the utter fear of being alone. Intentions don't matter, justification is irrelevant. All we have are the results of human action. Everyone had a part to play in this tragedy, and no one person can be to blame, because everyone is chained together in this mess that is Piltover and Zorn, and all are subject to and cause of the effects are the prices of their ambitions. This is why nobody's at fault for the events of Arcane, and this is why everybody had a hand in the tragedy that is Jinx. Because Jinx is the embodiment of our theme. She's the result of other people's actions as much as she is the cause for them. She's the one most loved and the one most hated, the one that pushes Violet to be better and the one who stands in her way. Powder was a little girl who wanted more than anything to be loved. Jinx is a little girl who wants to be loved more than anything. Powder thought that to get love, she needed to be strong, like her father and sister. Jinx became strong, and for that, she will lose it all. With the exception of my favorite character, who went down on his luck after failing the Ratatouille audition, all our characters have struggled, are struggling, or will struggle with the question of our theme. Can I pay the price of my ambition? The Doctor and Vanda, Jace and Victor, Mel and Silco. You know what? Powder. This is because, excusing non-binary people, all people are non-binary when it comes to their motivations. Humans are ambivalent. We don't want one thing at one time, but several all at once. When you have to choose, it is rare that you're driven 100% towards a particular direction. There are reasons why you should be working out. There are reasons why you'd rather binge watch another 2 hours of YouTube. Opposite this layer of realism, melodramatic one-note characters, as I mentioned in my Squid Game video, are those whose actions are singular in direction as a product of a singular motivation. Vi, like the rest of the cast, feels real because there is more than one thing that she wants and there is more than one thing that she needs. She wants revenge on Silco, but she needs to save her sister. She wants a better life for the Undercity, but she needs to save her sister. She wants to be with Caitlyn, but she needs to save her sister. And sometimes the other way around. Although seemingly binary at any given moment, when taken in their entirety, these characters are complex and real because they feature a multitude of desires, of wants and needs.
I'm not weak.
That drive them this way or that, just like they do us.
Are we still sisters?
And every time the theme presents itself, it is at a crossroads of choice, where each one of our characters will have to decide what matters most to them. Will Jace sacrifice his mentor for Hextech, or Hextech for his mentor? Will Victor sacrifice his legacy for his life, or his life for his legacy? Will Violet sacrifice her dreams for Powder, or Powder for her dreams? Ambition versus cost, cost versus ambition. But if Powder does not struggle in the same way, not until she has once again unknowingly made her decision, not until it has been forced upon her, does that make her a boring melodramatic character? No. Where Violet is more a representation of the choosing part of our theme, Powder is more a representation of the effects that choosing has on others. Although neither of these characteristics are exclusive to either, this pairing of the two sisters and the theme creates a juxtaposition that, like Piltover and Zorn, allows us to see both sides of the same idea, that there is a personal cost to our ambitions and one that is not ours to pay. At the end of the day, Arcane can be seen as a cautionary tale, telling us to be careful of the choices we make for our own sakes, those of everyone around us, and even beyond, because we can never know how far the impact of our decisions might reach. The theme teaches us to be cognizant of this risk and to take it into account whenever these choices present themselves in our lives. Unfortunately for Powder though, that's not an option. Even before she could ever be influenced by the ambitions of others, Powder was already doomed. She, like Silco, also had good reason not to ask herself the question of ambition, because Powder grew up looking up to her sister and father, seeing how they were both admired and loved and strong. Unconsciously, she connected this strength to the reason why they were loved, and concluded she would need the same. Love remained her need, strength became her want, But different to her sister and most of the characters we have discussed, her want and need are not directly opposed to one another. They both aim for the same, to be loved.
Maybe you could love me like you used to.
And that's the problem. That is why the question always arrives too late. That is why she will never consider the cost her ambition has on others, because she has never thought of the cost it has on herself, because Powder sees her want and need as one and the same, and has never thought of the sacrifice her dreams demand. This error in conclusion is the one that will cause all of her suffering, and have her causing more, because, whether you prefer Violet or Silco's words, what Powder does not know is that she does not need to be strong to be worthy of being loved. Powder is the epitome of our theme because she both has her ambition and is at the center of the gear system. In a single-minded drive, Powder will disregard the prices others must pay for her dreams, just as much as others disregard the effects of their actions on her. Powder is the consequence of other people's actions as much as she is a product of her own. Sound familiar? That's you too, and me besides. By the time we reach the climax of the story, Powder has done everything to prove herself strong and worthy, and still cannot find the love she desires. In fact, she loses it right as she discovers it. Powder is one to choose now that the choice has been forced upon her, answering a question she did not even know had been asked, and finding her chosen sacrifice one she had never wanted to make. That love she already had, she takes away for one that may no longer be there or the same. It's only fitting then that after becoming all she thought she must be and losing all that she ever wanted to have, Powder takes away the chance of what Vi had always dreamed. She expends all the powder she has left, tears the color of violet streaming down her face, and becomes that which was assigned to her. She becomes Jinx.
Are we still sisters?
Nothing is ever going to change that.